Am I the asshole for telling the truth at my best friend's wedding during my toast? I'm a 30-year-old male and my best friend got married last week. I just bought a house and my wife is expecting our son in November, so I let him know I was limited in what I could contribute financially. But I did tell him I would try my best. So I went to the bachelor party in Miami, I rented the tux, and paid for mine and my wife's dinner at the rehearsal dinner. I also had a gift of $300 that I was going to give them, but we will get to why I didn't. His fiancée at the time would text me multiple times a day with updates. Fine. I didn't always respond, and it got to the point where if I didn't respond at least once a day, I'd get a call from my buddy. She texted me for the following reasons. 1. My wife was not allowed to talk about our pregnancy at all. She didn't want anyone to focus on that more than her, the bride. 2. She was not going to order any special food for my wife. No one asked her to. My wife was fine with whatever she was going to be served. 3. I was not helping the groom enough. He had to help her with favors, seating charts, and programs, so I had to help him with those things according to her. 4. She said if I was a true best man, I would offer to pay for the bar bill. I don't even know what that means. 5. She had to read and improve my speech before the rehearsal dinner and wanted to be included as much as my buddy. She told me to make things up if I had to. I was not allowed to include anyone but the two of them, and no inside jokes or stories about my buddy that didn't include her. 6. Her last text said to tell my wife to keep it together and not make a pregnancy scene during the wedding. Also, she wanted her to choose a dress that downplayed her pregnancy as much as possible. I was just so aggravated, I spoke to my buddy to see if he could reason with her. He told me to just play ball this one time, it's her day, and to cut him a break because he'd be dealing with her nonsense for the rest of his life. The day of, all the bride and my best friend do is scold me, berate me, and bark orders. I head down to the bar for the drink. The bride's mother is there and warned me not to get drunk because I ruined her daughter's day enough. That was the final straw. I didn't give them the card with the cash, and in the speech, I used my friend's exact wording about having to deal with her nonsense for the rest of his life. I wished him the best and told him I'd always be there for him, especially during the divorce. So, am I the asshole? Yeah, you are, but good job.
Storytime, I had to go to jail because of my toxic ex-boyfriend. So a little background information. Him and I started dating right after high school. And this relationship was so fucking toxic. We would literally fight over the dumbest shit. So fast forward 4 years later, the one night he had his friends over and he wanted me to cook steak. I decided to cook chicken instead. And this is what triggered the entire fucking fight. He was saying things like, you never listen to what I say, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife type of shit. So he pretty much blew up and was like trying to kick me out of our house. He went to our master bedroom, started breaking all my shit, throwing it down the stairs, and his friends left me there with his crazy ass. So I tried to get him to stop, but he wouldn't, of course. So then he ended up calling his fucking sister, who is 10 years older than me, trying to get her to come to my house and kick my ass. I never really got in a fight like this, so I decided to call 911. She heard him in the background going crazy like for part 2. Part 2 of why I had to go to jail because of my toxic ex-boyfriend. So like I said, the dispatcher on the phone could hear him in the background going absolutely fucking psycho. So she told me to hide. I ran upstairs into the master bedroom and locked the door until they came. So they interviewed us separately. And he has the nerve to start fucking crying, saying that I was beating his ass, and he even fucking scratched himself. So even though I called 911, they said in a domestic dispute they had to take somebody to jail. And since he had visible marks on him, they took me to jail. So the police officer told me to take off all my clothes and to only wear one layer and to also take out my shoelaces before he brought me in. So they booked me in jail, put me in a freezing cold fucking cell with 25 other actual bad bitches for 7 hours. And this is the best part. My ex kept trying to call and get me out the whole time I was in there, saying that he lied and everything. They set a court date for me, but when I showed up, they literally just dropped all the charges. Now I just tell everybody that I've been to jail and I'm not scared to go back.
Am I wrong for forcing my daughter to go to a party? I, 44 female, have 3 girls who I'll call May 21, Jessica 19, and Diana 16. Of course I'm biased, but all 3 of them are genuinely beautiful and charming. However, Diana isn't as social as her 2 big sisters. It's the classical teenage sitcom differences. Oh god, this is going south already. May and Jessica were social butterflies in high school. They had lots of friends and were very well known. Diana, on the other hand, has had the same 5-person group of friends since middle school and spends most of their time playing video games, particularly League of Legends and Smash Bros. What are you trying to say? Are you trying to say something's wrong with people who play League of Legends? In general, they are more on the geek side. Like I said, a very cliche difference. Diana has had bad luck, and thanks to lockdown, she hasn't had the full high school experience her sisters had, but she doesn't seem as affected as one would think. On one hand, it makes sense. Despite the worst part of the lockdown last year, she pretty much played with her friends online quite often, so I'm guessing she didn't feel as isolated as her sisters during this time, but still, it concerns me a little. Teenage years are a lot about being social and adventurous, and even without this global situation, she chooses to stay indoors. Anyway, the problem is that Diana's high school is planning a Halloween dance this month since last year it was cancelled. I imagine she'd be excited for her first dance, but she just isn't, and yesterday she told us that the day of the dance, Friday the 29th, she and her friends plan to participate in a local League of Legends tournament. This made me angry. She literally has all the time in the world for video games, but a limited amount of high school events, and she's just ditching them for irrelevant video game tournaments. I usually try to be supportive of her hobbies, but this crossed the line, and I told her she couldn't go to the tournament, and if she didn't go to the dance, then she won't go out that day nor play video games for the weekend. Like I said, my girl is as beautiful as her sisters, and I'm sure she wouldn't have a difficult time making friends. She doesn't have anything to be insecure about. When May and Jessica had this dance, they start prepping in September, trying new styles, finding the best costumes, all of that. I would drive them around to help them in any way possible to prepare. I wouldn't call it a tradition, but it's a moment that's also important for me. Oh, I see why you all butthurt about this. After the argument, my husband told me I was being an a-hole, and if she didn't want to go, that was on her. But what if she regrets not going when she's older? She can always play video games, but time won't stop, and she won't be in high school much longer. Still, my husband is rarely this upfront, so I wanted to know, am I wrong here? You guys in the comments, attack! This woman deserves to be attacked. I am promoting bullying in this section. Actually, no, TikTok, no, I'm not promoting bullying, because in this video we'll get, taken down. But, attack this lady. What?
Story time about my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend. So a little background information. So his ex-girlfriend's parents, they owned a security company, which sold cameras, alarms, and a few other things. So at the end of 2019, my boyfriend broke up with his ex-girlfriend. And by March of 2020, he started seeing me. And at first, we were just keeping things on the down low. Anyways, so after maybe 3 weeks of seeing my boyfriend, his ex sent me an Instagram message calling me a slut. It's the obsession for me. Anyways, what's even weirder is that she knew everything about my boyfriend and I, even the sexual things. Anyways, like I said, I thought that was really weird, so everything that she had sent me, I sent straight to him. Because I thought, obviously, that he had still been talking to her and had told her everything about us. But instantly, he gave me his phone and said go through it, and he had her blocked on everything. So even though it was weird, we moved on from that situation. Well, fast forward another 2 weeks, and his ex calls him while I'm at his house. Like for part 2. Part 2 about my boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend. So like I said, she had called him while I was over his house. And somehow she keeps figuring out things about our sex life and personal things that we had told each other. So my boyfriend and I got super suspicious, obviously. Then we started to think, and we noticed that everything that she was telling us were things that we had talked about in his bedroom. And things that we had done. So we ransacked his whole room looking for anything. And what do you know, I found a mini security camera and a microphone pointing out of his walk-in wardrobe directly towards the bed. He took it to the police and tracked it back to her. So it turns out she had used the hidden spare key, which his mom kept under the mat at the front door, which she had known about from when they dated. So she broke into his house, planted a security camera from her dad's business in his wardrobe. So we decided not to press charges because her parents and my boyfriend's parents were friends. So they just talked it out and decided to punish her in their own way.
Story time on how I beat up my grandma. Yes, my grandma, you heard right. Let's get into it. Okay, so boom. I'm a 16-year-old high school student who finds myself at my grandma's house almost every day. My mom's a single mother and works 2 jobs. And instead of leaving me home alone, she always drops me off at my grandma's house. And this has been our routine ever since I was 5 years old. My mom just felt more comfortable leaving me at my grandma's house. But what my mom didn't know is that I'd rather stay home alone rather than going to my grandma's house. My grandma has been beating me up ever since I was 5 years old. She didn't beat me up for any valid reasons. She would just be mad at me for the smallest things. Like one time I broke her glass chandelier while I was playing with my ball and she hit me. Another time I broke her 50-inch TV by accident and again she hit me. Y'all wouldn't believe this third reason why she beat me up. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how I beat up my 76-year-old grandma. Okay, so boom, like I said, my grandma would always beat me up for the smallest things. None of her reasons were valid. She beat me up once for breaking her glass chandelier while I was playing ball. Another time I broke her 50-inch TV screen on accident and she beat me up again. She even would tell me to wash the dishes, and when I would tell her no, because I don't live here, I shouldn't be washing anything, she would once again beat me up for being quote-unquote disrespectful. All this hitting throughout the years, and I was just over it, and my mom always siding with my grandma. Well, I'm 16 now and I was over it. My 76-year-old grandma should have learned to keep her hands to herself. So this particular night she told me to study, but I didn't want to study. I wanted to watch TV, so I told her no straight up. And things escalated. Like for part 3.
I'm 33 and have been living with my roommate Justin, 19, for about 8 months now. My husband died from pancreatic cancer in December 2019, right before everything hit, so it's been really tough these past couple of years, especially not being able to meet people physically for a while. I've known Justin since he was born, and his mom and I went to the same church growing up. He and his parents don't get along well, and he ended up getting kicked out a little while after he graduated high school. That's when he asked me if he could stay with me, and I said yes. He got a job, helped out with chores, and was really quiet for the most part. Doesn't talk to his parents, and he doesn't have any friends. About 5 months ago, I was really lonely and continued to miss my husband. Justin reminded me a lot of a younger version of him. I invited him to bed and slept with him. That was his first time, and he said that he found me really attractive, but he felt weird having sex with someone who knew him since he was born. However, for the first time in years, I didn't feel that pang of depression and loneliness. I didn't want to feel that again, so I told Justin if he wouldn't share my bed with me, he would have to leave. He agreed to sleep with me again, and for 5 months, we've had a great friends with benefits relationship. Now the problem is that he tells me he loves me. I told him that I love him as a friend, but he's too emotionally immature and young, and that one day he'll find a great girl his own age. He's continued to stay, but he recently called me an asshole for not kicking him out, and that he doesn't have the strength to leave himself because he's too in love with me. Am I the asshole for not kicking out my roommate after he told me that he loved me? I am a 20-year-old college student. In my country, a lot of students hunt for internships because it helps in getting a better pay package during placements. I've been casually talking to this guy, R, who's also my classmate. He was all friendly at the beginning but started flirting recently. I never once flirted with him and always just ignored his moves, but last week he asked me out and I said no. In fact, I apologized to him to have him think that somewhere in our conversation I might have led him on. He ghosted me and I didn't think much of it. Then 2 days later, he texted me again asking me out. I told him that I already said no, to which he replied that he gave me time to think it over and that I should be grateful for it. I'm not gonna lie, this pissed me off and I told him to F off. That's when he got pissed and called me all the names under the moon and just slut-shamed me for it. I blocked him, but he made his friends cuss me out too. I got super frustrated and called him out on my story along with attaching screenshots of our chats. Around 300 people saw it, and one among them is a placement mentor, a 4th-year student. I didn't think much of it because after the story I blocked them all and went on with my day. The placement head saw this kind of behavior unacceptable and appalling. He reported this to our department head. Apparently in my college, this kind of behavior is labeled as harassment and punishment can lead to suspension. The department head and placement mentor called me to their office to get my statement and I did. I showed them everything and he got suspended for 3 months for his behavior. He was about to get a very good internship in a government company, but since he got suspended, that internship is also gone. Our professor, P, loves him and he called me into his office to go make another statement to the department head that I forgive him and there's also wrong in my part. Our department head called me, R, his parents, and 2 of our professors, P and Q, into his office. The department head asked if I'm willing to forgive him, which would get him off the suspension. Somewhere inside of me, I wanted to see him suffer, so I told him no. I was harassed and I wanted him to be punished. His mother berated me in front of everyone, saying that I'm the one who let her son on and I'm doing this purposely because he's my competitor. She said that her son is the victim here. The department head didn't listen to her and gave R his rightful punishment, well, at least according to me. Well, now our internship started and a few of my friends said I took it too far. He just called me names while texting and I got him suspended for that. Some of my other classmates called me a bully and an asshole for ruining his bright future. Professor P called me outside of his class today and told me that he's extremely disappointed in me and it's because of girls like me, potential careers of men are ruined. This actually made me cry and I'm rethinking whether what I did was extreme. Am I the asshole for potentially ruining my classmate's career?
I think I have to go to the hospital, like the emergency room, and I think I need to go there now. So when it comes to my health, I am the biggest overthinker there is because I just don't want to die. But like this time, like now I actually think I'm gonna die. So like 2 days ago, I had just gotten done eating dinner and I go lay down. All of a sudden, I'm like shaking like this. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing that. Like, why is my body shaking right now? Maybe I need sugar. So I started eating like a lot of candy and I felt better. So I'm like, okay, problem solved. So then the next day, I felt lightheaded all day. Like, I just did not feel like myself, whatever. I'm like, okay. So around like 6 o'clock after dinner, I go lay down and all of a sudden my entire body goes numb and like my chest area is tingling, like tingling. My hands are tingling and I'm like, what is happening? Like my whole body was just tingling and going numb. So I'm like, that's a little weird. And then all of a sudden, my hand like cramps up like this and I cannot move it. And there's like a pulse right here and it's going boo, 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 like out of my hand. It looked like there was somebody kicking out of my hand. And I literally could not move my hand out of this position. And every time I like touched my hand like this, my whole hand would like hurt. And even now when I touch it, I get like pins and needles when I do that. A little weird, whatever. I just chug a whole bottle of orange juice because I'm like, maybe I don't have enough vitamin C. But it gets worse. Today, this morning, I wake up and I feel surprisingly healthy. I'm like, okay. All of a sudden, I get nauseous. But like not nauseous, like acid reflux nausea, if you know what I mean. And then I literally cannot stop going to the bathroom all day, if you know what I mean. Like, I've literally been in the bathroom all day, which is very unnormal for me. And my chest area is still tingly. And like I said, when I do this, my hand goes numb. Like, what does this mean? Because when I look up the symptoms, it tells me that I'm either gonna die or I need some vitamin C. So which one is it? Am I gonna be 6 feet under? Do I need to go to Walmart and get some orange juice? Like, so if there's any doctors or anybody smart, this has happened to anybody else, please tell me what's happening, because I'm like overthinking more and more, and I literally think I'm gonna die and it's making everything worse. So what does this mean? What does this mean? Oh, and I get like pains in my chest too. Like right here, I get like a pain, like. So yeah, those are my symptoms. Diagnose me, please, because I'm too scared.
Story time about how my boyfriend and best friend were sneaking around behind my back. So a little background information, I was 15 and in 10th grade. So my mom and dad were split up and I was pretty much allowed to do whatever I wanted because of that. So I was dating this boy named Jacob. Well, my best friend Alice literally hated him. Like low-key, every once in a while, she would try to break him and I up. And when I would call her out on it, she would just deny it. Anyway, so the one day I didn't go to school because I was super sick. So the whole day I was trying to text Jacob and Allison, but nobody was answering me. Which was extremely weird because no matter what, Allison would always text me back. So after I knew the school ended, I went to Allison's house. Nobody was answering the door, so I used the spare key. I walk in and all I hear is a very loud banging coming from her bedroom. So I walk in, I see my boyfriend and her together, and then he starts saying that she drugged him. So I went on his phone, I see a bunch of old text messages between him and her, and them exchanging pictures. And then sis wants to start giving me an attitude, so I punched her in the face, and then I left and I don't talk to either of them.
I'm an asshole for not catering to someone's food allergy. My child had a birthday party and we were serving pizza and other type of kid food. One of her friends has a ton of allergies and I only knew about a couple of them. When the party was starting, her mom dropped her off and asked me about the allergy-friendly food we would have for her kid. I told her we didn't have any and she went off on me, trying to hurt her and how irresponsible I am. I was very confused because most people with severe allergies would bring their own food. I told her, I'm sorry, but I do have bread and butter, and she lost it even more saying her kid is allergic to gluten. She ended up leaving and taking her kid with her. And to make matters worse, at school she told the teacher I am not allowed to bring any snacks in because of what happened. And now she will not even let her kids be friends anymore, even at school. I obviously feel bad, but at the same time, most people I know with allergies that severe would bring their own stuff to eliminate any type of risk. She's also been posting on the neighborhood Facebook page and everyone is on her side too. And people are just starting to bash me. So, am I the asshole? Should I leave my manipulative boyfriend? My boyfriend and I have been together for 5 years, and I've never noticed him being manipulative, but my friends say that he is. He hates it when I hang out with my friends and family. He says it's because they're toxic and that I shouldn't trust them. He also says that my family just doesn't care for me, which I kind of believe, because why would he lie? He loves me. Anyways, we got into an argument. When I told him how I felt, he just started saying how he feels bad and how he's a terrible person. He says that he guesses that I'm just probably better off without him, which I was super confused. The next day, I asked for his permission to hang out with some friends, and he said no because of how I treated him the night before, which I guess was fair. I told my friends, and they got really mad saying how this isn't normal. This is how our relationship has always been, and I thought it was pretty normal. This is how my parents' relationship was, and so on. I really do love him, and I think he's amazing, but I'm just wondering if I'm missing something. My friends don't like him and say that it's very toxic, but I have no idea. I'm just looking for other people's advice on what to do and if I should leave him or not. Thank you.
Am I wrong for forcing my daughter to go to a party? I, 44 female, have 3 girls who I'll call May 21, Jessica 19, and Diana 16. Of course I'm biased, but all 3 of them are genuinely beautiful and charming. However, Diana isn't as social as her 2 big sisters. It's the classical teenage sitcom differences. May and Jessica were social butterflies in high school. They had lots of friends and were very well known. Diana, on the other hand, has had the same 5-person group of friends since middle school and spends most of their time playing video games, particularly League of Legends and Smash Bros. In general, they are more on the geek side. Like I said, a very cliche difference. Diana has had bad luck, and thanks to lockdown, she hasn't had the full high school experience her sisters had, but she doesn't seem as affected as one would think. On one hand, it makes sense. Despite the worst part of the lockdown last year, she pretty much played with her friends online quite often, so I'm guessing she didn't feel as isolated as her sisters during this time, but still, it concerns me a little. Teenage years are a lot about being social and adventurous, and even without this global situation, she chooses to stay indoors. Anyway, the problem is that Diana's high school is planning a Halloween dance this month since last year it was canceled. I imagine she'd be excited for her first dance, but she just isn't, and yesterday she told us that the day of the dance, Friday the 29th, she and her friends plan to participate in a local League of Legends tournament. This made me angry. She literally has all the time in the world for video games, but a limited amount of high school events, and she's just ditching them for irrelevant video game tournaments. I usually try to be supportive of her hobbies, but this crossed the line, and I told her she couldn't go to the tournament, and if she didn't go to the dance, then she won't go out that day nor play video games for the weekend. Like I said, my girl is as beautiful as her sisters, and I'm sure she wouldn't have a difficult time making friends. She doesn't have anything to be insecure about. When May and Jessica had this dance, they start prepping in September, trying new styles, finding the best costumes, all of that. I would drive them around to help them in any way possible to prepare. I wouldn't call it a tradition, but it's a moment that's also important for me. After the argument, my husband told me I was being an a-hole, and if she didn't want to go, that was on her. But what if she regrets not going when she's older? She can always play video games, but time won't stop, and she won't be in high school much longer. Still, my husband is rarely this upfront, so I wanted to know, am I wrong here?
Am I the asshole for asking my sister where she got her babies from? My sister, 25, has struggled with infertility problems for years. She and her husband got married at 16 and have been trying since they were 18. Doctors have basically told her she'll never have a baby. My sister is extremely against infant adoption and never even mentioned it to her, or she'll rant on about how it should be banned for hours. Her husband was adopted as an infant, so I guess it comes from that. They have tried IVF in the past, which hasn't worked, and while they aren't against surrogacy, they aren't fans and have stated multiple times they would never go that route. Anyway, 10 months ago, my sister posted on Instagram welcoming her daughter into the world. Of course, we were ecstatic initially. She was healthy, beautiful, and all around an amazing baby. For 3 months, no one noticed anything odd. We assumed my sister just kept a pregnancy secret because she breastfeeds. We weren't aware you could lactate without giving birth. She started coming into her features, and the baby's clearly ethically something else. Facial features and even skin tone doesn't match either of the parents. We are Mexican and her husband is Ashkenazi. We didn't say anything because genetics can be weird. We assumed she adopted and didn't want to go back on her previous statements. Except 4 months ago, it happened again. This time welcoming a son. She added that she was in her second trimester of pregnancy with her first successful pregnancy. A cousin asked if they adopted and my sister got upset and reiterated that they would never. At this point, I'm really suspicious, so finally last week I asked her where the hell the other 2 kids are from. They clearly aren't hers, and if she's still spewing BS about the adoption being trauma, then how the hell did she get them? She got really upset and her husband got pretty angry and they both got up and left. My entire family is more or less backing me because we're really concerned about where the hell these kids came from. She has seemingly blocked most of us on socials where she posts about her kids and a few mutual friends. She's really angry about it, asking why I have to push and why I can't just be happy for her. It sort of puts us in a bind. I'm concerned about the kids but also want to be in my sister's life. I don't feel like my question was too out of the ordinary considering how strange the situation is. I don't know. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for warning my dad's girlfriend about his relationship patterns which led to her dumping him? I'm 16 female and my 40-year-old dad has a habit of dating college women and dumping them after like 2 or 3 years. Then complaining about how needy and clingy they were. It's been going on my entire life and it really annoys me. Like, I feel like if he doesn't want someone clingy, a woman in her 20s willing to date a guy who could be your dad maybe isn't the best option. It's seriously like he's allergic to any woman over 23. I've made half-jokey comments before about how I think it's creepy he only dates women 24 and under. But apparently I need to mind my own business even though I live with him full-time, so the women he brings over are kind of my business. Especially when he complains to me when he dumps them for being too clingy. Anyway, so about a week ago he introduced me to his new girlfriend and she's 21 but could easily pass for my age. Like she wouldn't be out of place in my high school. I don't know, it really bothered me in particular that day, so when my dad wasn't around, I told her that if she's looking for long-term things, she won't get it from my dad. And he'll definitely dump her before she turns 24 like every other woman he's ever dated. Then he'll call her a pathetic, clingy mess behind her back. I didn't think she believed me because at the time she laughed it off and said it was different with her, but I guess she thought about it and she ended up dumping him yesterday. He must have told my dad what I said because now he's angry at me for interfering in his relationship. And he's heard I thought of him that way, but that's the truth.
Am I the asshole for stopping someone's engagement? I was at my best friend's wedding and I was her maid of honor. We were going through the toast and one of her bridesmaids, let's call her Emma, had a boyfriend, let's call him Ethan. Ethan stood up to make a toast and was talking about how much the groom helped him meet his girlfriend. Soon, this toast was just about how much he loved his girlfriend, and I knew where this was going. The bride looked really annoyed, and then he started to pull something out of his pocket. I went over and grabbed the mic and talked about how happy I am for the bride and groom. After the toast, Ethan came up to me and started getting really angry and asking why I would stop his engagement. He said I ruined it, and I'm just a really terrible person for doing that. I asked him if he even asked the bride and groom's permission, and he said no, but he knew it would be cool. We went back and forth for a little bit until he decided to leave me alone. My best friend, aka the bride, came over and thanked me for stopping it and that she had no idea that was even going to happen. Ethan and Emma are now engaged, and they've been posting on social media about how I ruined their first engagement. And people are really pissed at me. So, am I the asshole?
I'm an 18-year-old guy who was supposed to pick up my sister and her best friend, both 12, from school and take them to ballet class. I arrived very late and they were waiting for me alone on the sideway. I saw that something was up. While they were waiting, after the school had already closed, my sister's friend started to have her first period. I don't know almost anything about periods, but the point is that there was a red stain on her skirt. My sister did not have her first period yet. The friend was crying and my sister asked me if we could go to the pharmacy to get pads for her. I didn't want to do that. As an adult man, I didn't think it was appropriate for me to get involved in such an intimate thing for a girl that I'm not even related to. I asked her if she could call her mom, but she said that her mom was working and couldn't respond. I decided that the best course of action was to take them to their ballet class where there would be a lot of women that could help. I told her to sit over on her backpack so that she wouldn't ruin my car. I left them at the class and that was it. When I told my girlfriend about this, she was really angry. She said that what I did was totally wrong and that I'm an idiot. I get that she knows more about periods than me, being a woman, but I still think that my reaction was logical. Am I the asshole for not buying pads for my sister's best friend during her first period? I'm 30 and married to my husband who's the same age as me. We have a 2-year-old daughter and now we're expecting our second child. My brother, 26, is married to my sister-in-law, 25. My sister-in-law is infertile and it's nearly impossible for her to have kids. At first, she was devastated, but now she's come to terms with it and doesn't care anymore. My sister-in-law has a dog that she's had since high school. The dog is 9 years old and they have a second dog they adopted with my brother, which is 4 years old. I respect their decisions, but I don't really like dogs and I hate when people do more for their dogs than they do for their siblings, nephews, or nieces. These dogs are getting more spoiled by my brother than his own niece, my daughter. I've expressed my views on it, but everyone tells me to mind my own business. So last week, my sister-in-law's senior dog got hit by a car and the dog now needs surgery and therapies, which are a bit pricey. My brother and sister-in-law were very quick to open their pockets and pay for every single expense of the dog's surgery and therapies. When I found out, I complained to them that I wish they had the same energy for their niece like they do with their animals. My brother said that my daughter has never been in an emergency where she could need all that money and that if she had an emergency, they would help. I said it's unreasonable to care more about dogs when my kid is right here and I'm expecting another one soon who barely gets the same love. That's when my sister-in-law said, "With all due respect, I understand you adore your kid and you'll love your second one too, and I will love your kids too, but my dogs are family and I do anything to provide a good life for them." I told my sister-in-law that it's a good thing that she's infertile because she'd be a terrible mother since she prioritized her fur babies over actual human children. My brother and sister-in-law got very offended and don't speak to me now. My husband said that while I was right, I shouldn't straight up tell him that. My parents claim that I'm an asshole for saying this, but they agree to some extent, but not totally. Am I the asshole for telling my sister-in-law I'm glad she's infertile because she'd be a terrible mother?
Am I the asshole for not letting my daughter visit her boyfriend? I, 49 male, have a daughter, 16 female, that lives with me full-time. Her mother and I divorced when she was 3 years old. My daughter is very tomboyish and loves to play video games. When she turned 15, I bought her a gaming PC. She was very excited and has been playing a ton of games. She told me she met a boy in one of the games and that they've been chatting for a few months now. She then told me that they were in a relationship and have been planning on meeting in person. He lives in Florida but does not want to travel due to certain circumstances. Her plan is to visit him during Christmas. She's never seen an actual photo of him since they met, and he's asked her multiple times to purchase items for him. I asked my daughter to let me go with her, but she says I should trust her.
I literally have never been so close to getting kidnapped. Like, this dude literally tried to snatch me. So a couple days ago, I was at my dad's house, this house right here, and I was about to leave to go to my mom's house. And my mom lives around 30 minutes away. You need to take the interstate to get to her house. So I leave my dad's house around 9 p.m. to head to my mom's. And on my way to get onto the interstate, I realized that my car has no gas. So I'm like, okay, no big deal. Stop at the gas station next to the interstate, fill up my gas tank, and then go to my mom's house. Easy, simple, nothing weird about that. So I pull up to the gas station. And like, this gas station, she's a little ghetto. She's a little scared. Like, you don't think you're gonna make it out out of the gas station, but it's okay. I needed gas. And this gas station has like 2 sides to it. And on one side, there was like 2 cars. On the other side, there were no cars. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to the one with no cars because I don't like people. I don't want to deal with people. So I pull up to the pump, and as soon as I put my car in park and turn it off, another car pulls up to the gas station, a white truck. And I'm getting out of my car. And that's when this truck turns around and goes into the side of the gas station that I was on where nobody else was at. And that raised red flags to me because why is this truck going on the side of the gas station where nobody else is at except for a little white girl alone in her car? Like, that's weird. That sucks. I look snatchable. Like, you look like you can just take me. Like, I don't have muscles, baby. And then to make matters worse, he decides to park his car right next to mine. He goes to the pump right next to mine. There's like 10 other pumps that he could have went to. He goes to one right next to me. So I'm like, okay, weird. So I get out of my car to fill up my gas. And, I'm swiping my debit card to pay. And I'm expecting this dude to get out of his car and, fill up his gas because that's what you do at a gas station. You get gas. You don't just sit in your car. But no, that's exactly what he did. He sat in his car just staring at me as I'm paying for my gas. Like, that's weird. So at this point, I'm literally freaking out. I've never felt so vulnerable in my life. I'm getting like cold sweat. I'm having a lot of anxiety because why? Why is he just staring at me? That is so freaking weird. And to make matters worse, I didn't have my phone on me. My phone was in my car. So if he did snatch me, I had nobody to call. And I didn't have my keys, which have my mace on it. So if he did try anything, I don't have my mace. Like, I was completely defenseless. So like 10 seconds later, I pay for my gas and I sprint into my car and I lock my door. And I'm sitting there waiting for my gas to fill up. And finally, this dude steps out of his car to fill up his own gas. And I was still worried that something was going to happen. So I took a picture of his truck in case anything did happen and he did try something. See, it was a white truck. You can't tell that we're at a gas station, but we are. So he finally starts to fill up his gas. And as he is doing filling up gas, he is just staring at me the entire time. Homie is literally filling up his gas like this. I'm in my car, locked myself in, literally shaking like this, and finally my gas has finished filling up, meaning that I can leave. So as soon as I open my car door to take the gas pump out of my car and drive off, the dude starts moving to the other side of his truck. And I don't know for what, but red flags going off in my mind, baby. This dude's about to kidnap me. I sprint over to the gas pump, rip it out of my car. I don't even put it back onto the thing where you hang the gas pump on. I left it on the floor, like dangling, jumped back into my car, and drove off before my car was even on. And I sped off so quick. It's not even funny. I don't know what he was trying to do, but it didn't seem right. I think I did the right thing. I don't care if you think I was overreacting.
Am I the asshole for refusing to babysit our daughter? I, 29 male, bought my wife, 25 female, 2 tickets to visit her grandma in Italy next week. The other ticket was for our daughter, 4 female, since I assumed she'd be taking her. She's saying she wants a break from the kids on her vacation. I told her that was unfortunate since there's no way that our daughter cannot go if she goes. This is because I have work and don't want to take time off to babysit our daughter for an entire week. I suggested we have someone else watch her, but we don't know anyone that lives close by who'd be willing to watch her. I love my daughter, but I don't want to take a week off to babysit her. I bought the tickets for her birthday. I don't know, I'm just wondering, am I the asshole for refusing to babysit our daughter here?
Am I the asshole for telling my sister she was out of her mind when she said she wanted to take back my child whom I adopted from her? My sister Nancy got pregnant at 18. I'm infertile, and I knew I couldn't have kids, so when she said she was giving her baby up for adoption, I decided to be her mom. Nancy went no contact 5 months after giving birth. For a bit of background, Nancy got pregnant by a one-night stand, and she apparently didn't remember or know the father at the time of birth. But when Victor, my child, was 2, a man, Tyler, messaged me on social media claiming to be the father of my child. Nancy had run into him at a club and drunkenly confessed to the pregnancy. We met up, he bonded with his daughter, and, well, that man is now my husband of 7 years. Coming back to my sister, she called me yesterday. Although I was surprised at her call, I picked up. We made some small talk, and then she said she had gotten married a year back, and both of them wanted children, but couldn't because her husband was infertile, but really wanted kids. I asked her if she wanted to adopt, and she said she would just need to get her baby back. I was speechless for a few moments before replying, saying that if she wants to meet my child as an aunt, she is welcome to, and we can both sit Victor down and explain the reason for her absence, but she can't just ask me to give up my child. She said she'll sue me as she's the birth mother. I told her she was out of her mind, and I told Tyler. She exploded, calling me names and saying I stole her life. I got too emotional and hung up. Tyler came home from work, and on explaining to him, he was beyond furious. I then got a call from my parents saying I was an asshole for telling Nancy she couldn't see her baby. I said I never said that, and I welcomed her to bond with Victor, but they refused to listen and said I was being insensitive and harsh and flaunting my family. I now feel bad because me and Nancy were very close as sisters, and I feel quite close to her situation since I know the struggles of infertility. Tyler said there was no way he was letting my sister have full time, and I agree, but I want to know if I'm the asshole for being too harsh and telling her about Tyler. I did legally adopt Victor at birth. Tyler adopted her too after we got married. Nancy never wanted kids, and I feel the only reason she wants Victor now is because her husband wants kids. Is she the asshole or her sister?